Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for joining us on another episode of today's Electrical Estimating. I'm your co-host, Chris Trommer. And as always, not always, I guess, because you weren't here last week, but joining us again this week is our other co-host, Sal Huerta.
Hello, everyone.
Sal, we have Barney back with us. We had such a great time when Barney joined us. He was one of our first guests that we recorded with over a year ago. He gave some really insightful and actionable and relatable episodes for us to share with our listeners, and he was happy enough to come back again and do a nice follow-up to our conversation last week with Travis about tariffs. Travis, coming from North Coast last week, gave us some great insight into how North Coast is handling the tariffs, how they're working with their contracting partners and their suppliers. Really boots on the ground kind of stuff, I think I put it. Barney's here to give us the insight from that contractor into things. What's he seeing? How is he feeling? And I think it really helps to complement each other and, sort of back up some of these facts of what's going on and have people sort of understand what's happening there that maybe in a different part of the channel might be a manufacturer rep, an architect, an engineer, somebody outside that bottom portion of the electrical channel that's listening to this.
I think that's a really good point, and one of the main reasons that we have this channel open is because some people might think that each of these areas, manufacturing, distribution, and contracting, are silos that are on their own.
Mhm.
Whereas, like I said, Travis last week and then Barney this week, you'll see how connected everyone is. One thing that affects one group actually affects everyone down the chain, and so the closer that we are as an industry, the better things become.
Yeah, I mean, one prime example, I guess everybody always looks at the trickle down effect. If there are, like we had COVID, we had supply chain issues with manufacturers. So that trickled down to delays with electrical contractors on project sites. Well, now I think electrical manufacturers should actually be taking note of this episode. Hopefully they're listening. Of what Barney's saying, because what Barney's pointing out to us is that he's having to bid almost 5 times the amount of jobs he bid before to just win one bid. And the amount of bids that are coming in from each job are almost going up 4 times. So it's really showing the amount of work that these guys are fighting over. So it could really be predicting that some of these projects that are going to be happening in the future are going to sort of start drying up. Well, if that starts drying up, manufacturers' products aren't going to be selling so well because there's going to be no projects to be installing them on. So I think, as you just said, this is a great indicator both up and down the channel of what's occurring and how others within the channel can sort of listen to these and get an understanding of what could be occurring to them in the future.
And Barney also brings it out in the conversation. Before he would, 1 in 10 jobs he would bid because he was going to bid the ones that he knows his people can do
Yeah.
that are very profitable for him.
Mhm.
But now, because of the scenario that things are going on today, that, for him, he's got to bid everything. So now he's, like you said, he's bidding 50 jobs before
Yeah.
he was only doing 10 because he's got to get his people working.
Yeah. And what he brought up before, and we'll talk about it in the episode, like he was the one that talked a lot about specialization. And then we went on and talked about Matt Firestone saying, you should really find a niche in the market and solidify yourself in that niche because that's going to bring work to you because people are going to know you for it. But it seems like when you find yourselves in scenarios like this, where the industry currently is, where there's delays on projects and owners aren't pulling the trigger to start projects for one reason or another, that specialization sort of goes out the door because, as Barney puts it, you need to keep the lights on, you need to keep your guys working. So you have to start expanding outside of that specialization. So it's great to have that niche, that specialization being centered around something you can, like you said, you bid for 10 jobs, you get 1 or 2. He was perfect. He was great. Now expanding out, and it just seems that the market's getting flooded. So is this a key indicator moving forwards that more projects are going to be non-starters and that, we could be seeing a downturn in construction? I don't know. I'm not that guy, but it seems, coming from him, maybe it's a localized thing, maybe not, but something to keep an eye on at least.
Absolutely.
let's not waste any more of their time. Let's jump into the episode. Glad you're back with us, that we got that all sorted out. You're having a rough morning, so I hope you feel better the rest of the day. And if this is your first time joining us, please hit that subscribe button. We try to drop new episodes almost every Friday, all relating to what the title of the show is. Today is electrical estimating. Catch you next week, Sal.
Good talking, buddy.
Last week when I was talking to Travis, he had mentioned that a lot of the tariff, I guess, pricing hasn't really trickled its way down because of the delays in some tariffs and also price and costs being eaten up by importers because of one reason or another, or just they really haven't seen that big push where everybody thought on day one of a tariff, all the prices were going to rise immediately. Have you noticed the material prices being pushed up lately or creeping along?
It's definitely creeping along. Some of the big quoted items like gear, lighting, wire, that's definitely gone up. And then the availability is stretched out there.
Really? Travis had mentioned something when it came to availability, and we weren't sure if it was tariff related or how he put it. He's noticing a lot of contractors are doing bulk buys. So instead of buying by phase, they're going in and pretty much buying out the whole project when they feel like the price is good because they don't want to wait to see what happens with tariffs where the prices may raise. So they're
Yeah.
buying the whole project out, which necessarily isn't the supply chain causing issues, but these bulk buys are then basically, as Travis put it, taking all the stock off their shelf and not having anything available for the next guy coming in the door.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much the cost of materials for me,
Mm-hmm.
because like through NetPricer, when I do my bids through McCormick, I update the materials so I know the cost. So going in
Yeah.
from you guys, and then I feel comfortable. But bigger stuff, I would just bid it and add padded a little bit. But it's really, if you want to know my simple, what I'm seeing and what
Yeah.
I think is causing it. So you've got the owners of projects,
Yeah.
and they're giving it out to the normal GCs. And the normal GCs I bid to, the amount of bids going out are not really changing. But the biggest thing that I've seen is I call up the GCs, how did I do on this job, that job, that job? And then they tell me about where I came in, but almost all of them are saying, well, we used to have maybe 6+ electrical bids. I've heard as much as 40 bids on some jobs.
Really?
And what I really think's going on is the owners of projects putting it out to bids. There's no electrical is not getting the amount of jobs we are used to. So everybody's bidding everything, but the owners are not awarding it. And it's that's what causes delays or cancellations. So the GCs are not putting as many jobs out there because they're not getting as many jobs.
Got it.
And
So,
it's
okay.
it trickled down, and in a nutshell, that's what I'm saying.
So owners are putting out the projects, but not necessarily pulling the trigger on the project once it goes out to a GC to get pricing. So they might just be testing the water to see, hey, what are we going to be coming in at once we get all these bids, and then saying, well, maybe we'll hold off a little bit longer before actually pulling the trigger on this.
100%. And
So,
it's affecting every electrical contractor in my state.
so then you got, like you said, 6 or 7 guys up to 30, 40 guys now bidding because work's sort
Nobody's
of
got work.
drying up. Yeah.
Hey, Barney, of those, like you said, a lot more people are bidding. Do you find these are contractors from outside your area, outside the state?
Um, Not outside the state, but a lot of them are like, if you got enough work as electrical contractor, you're only going to bid a few jobs and get what you want,
Mhm.
and then build them. But now I feel like electrical contractors are not getting the jobs. And that's why everybody's got to bid every job.
They're sort of chasing, just hoping, because they don't know if this job's going to come through or if this is just an owner or GC testing the water to see where pricing lands and then deciding, hey, pricing's a bit high. Maybe we'll wait a little bit longer and product pricing. Cause now we're talking product pricing across the board, not just electrical product
Oh,
pricing, but
yeah. Right.
concrete and HVAC and all the other stuff that comes in that are all affected by tariffs and the uncertainty of pricing and availability of products. So now they might be going, hey, tested the water. This is coming in a lot higher than where we could be at to make a profit. So let's kick the can down a little bit down the road, eat the taxes on the property, and
Delaying and
own it.
cancellation. Another thing is like, normally I bid 10 jobs and I don't even want more than one out of those 10.
Mhm.
But I'm up to 50 jobs and to get awarded a job, 50 bids, I mean. So it's
That 15 or 50?
5-0.
50. Geez, that's a huge increase.
Yeah, normally I easily get 1 out of 10, sometimes more. And now I'm lucky to get 1 out of 50. That's
So
why every electrical contractor is bidding every job there is.
do you get a little worried when you're bidding these jobs? Because obviously now that there's more contractors in the market going after more jobs, you're trying to maybe cut down on your cost a little bit more to come in a little bit tighter. But then, say you do your bid now, it gets accepted in, let's just say hypothetically 3 months, it gets accepted, the project starts, but now you're not buying product for another year with all the tariff uncertainty and them going and fluctuating. Do you get nervous that that tight margin that you put in for that bid in the beginning to try to at least get in there and win now might get destroyed by, a 50% tariff coming off
I
of someplace?
It's 100% possibility. And you have to, and at some point, I've got to say, I need jobs just to keep my men working.
Yeah.
And so the profitability may change and has changed.
Yeah.
Hopefully, all this is one day going to go back to normal.
Mhm.
But sometimes you got to get jobs to keep your men.
Yeah. Just keep them working and keep them in the field.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things going on in your area with, contractors who usually wouldn't be bidding on jobs, you having to bid on more jobs, people pulling out after getting pricing, the uncertainty of pricing. Have your distributors that you work with, have any of them reached out and tried to assist in any sort of way? I know with Travis, he was talking about them opening up warehouse space for certain people that want to buy in bulk and then keep it on site with them for a while. I know others are sending out different newsletters that say, hey, these particular products are going to get hit with this percentage of increase at this percentage date to try to let people know sort of what's going on.
Right. Like Travis, North Coast, they're one of my main suppliers. He tells me, because we're friends, like me and Sal, and he tells me, look, this is what metal's been doing. This is what wires, they're thinking it's going to change, and he gives me a heads up so that if I'm bidding a job with a lot of those commodities that he thinks are going to increase, I may not decrease my profits that much in that area, just as a backup.
Yeah, hedge your bet that if they can see it going upwards, you're not going to decrease it down because you want to at least keep that margin in
At
there.
least on those commodities.
Yeah. Are you looking at, I'm guessing, because the first time we talked, you were stating how you guys do certain types of jobs with certain types of products. It makes it easy for your guys to get in, get out, and everything's being done correctly because it's sort of like a blueprint. You do this type
Right.
with this type of product. There's no worry, you should get it done fast. Do you find with supply chain issues coming up nowadays and with product pricing being all over the place, are you finding yourself looking at different types of products that you may have not necessarily considered in the past, but because of their pricing or availability, you're looking at them a little bit more often to overtake some of the brands that you've worked with consistently over the years?
Yeah, normally like you said, I know where my profit projects are. So I
Mhm.
cookie cutter stuff. But now I'm looking at anything that I feel like my crew can do.
Okay.
So I'm just like kind of like everything we've talked about. The electrical contractors are starving in this area. A lot of the big jobs are being completed, so the halls are filling up. There's
Gotcha.
a lot of the guys that work for me who got stolen before this whole tariff thing by these big companies making a lot, they could pay them more.
Yeah.
Uh, they're all knocking at my door because those
Everything's
big companies, they're they're not going to lose money. I'm used to be really big, and they also, I think, are just maybe slow down and see what the end result's going to be in 6 months from now. Or
Yeah,
what?
so they're big enough to sort of just put a hold on some of these things because they know they can pick up a huge project and be okay after a couple months. But
Yeah,
in the meantime, guys that be relying on that work are now back in the halls or looking for work, and you're sitting here just trying to pick up the jobs to keep the guys you do have moving along. Well,
exactly. Yeah,
owners are sitting there not knowing when to pull the trigger so that they don't overspend and overpay for something and never see a return. Like that trickles down to all of you guys just trying to figure out how you're going to make a profit off of a project with very tight margins right now.
yeah. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, man.
Gotcha. Now, have you thought about, I know I mentioned it before, Travis saying that they warehouse products for some of their contractors, and he's seeing more contractors buy product in bulk at certain times and just store. Is that something you're keeping an eye on for the type of projects? I know you had a cookie cutter before, but you're expanding, but type of
Yeah, if
commodity stuff that you're
if
looking.
I'm doing something of good size, uh,
Yeah,
he offers because as long as I can bill for it to the
yeah,
general contractor, I it either has to be on site or in like in his warehouse
yeah,
and take pictures of it and send it to him. So I buy out the whole job if I can. He'll store it. I'll bill for all that material,
yeah.
and I send the GCs pictures, and they'll be able to bill for
Their side
to
because
the
they,
owners,
yeah.
and they get paid, I get paid, and I don't need to worry about what's going to happen with these other commodities down the road.
Is that something you look at? We gave the example before. Maybe you win the bid, and then it's like, it goes through. You put in the estimate, 3 months go by, you win the bid, and then you may not be even on the job site for 6 to 12 months. Once you get the signed agreement for that project, is that something you go out and looking like, hey, is it possible to start buying now and just
Oh,
sticking
definitely, definitely,
instead of just trying to wait for phases or anything?
yeah, definitely. But uh, when I put out my bids, I've got to say it's good for this much time.
Yeah,
And so if they get to me 6 months later when all materials are twice
reprice.
as much, then
Yeah.
I just don't have to sign it. Or I could say it's increased and you have to increase my bid this much and then send me a contract.
Are you seeing your time frame that you gave on how long your bids were good for decrease, from going from X amount of days in the past? So let's just say in the past you used to say this is good for 60 days down to, 20, 30 days at this point.
Probably from 90 days to 40 days
Oh,
is
okay.
kind of where I went to because I wasn't worried about it before.
Yeah. There was some stability available. We sort of understood what was going on. It seemed like we were just getting through the supply chain as we had with COVID and the recession stuff. And everybody was starting to get back on even playing fields and everybody was doing well. And now it seems like it just starts a whole new process of
Yeah.
ups and downs of people trying to understand where we're at and what's going to be happening. Um, excuse me. Has there ever been a point, or do you see yourself in the future ever getting to a point? And I'm just curious about this for my own, thought process that you put out an estimate, the bid's accepted, as we were just talking about, and it's like 6 months down the line, and then the owner comes in or the GC and goes, "Hey, you got it," and then you're like, "Well, hey, my pricing's going to have to raise up."
Yeah.
and they go, well, no, we're not going to do that. Is there ever a time that happens to you? And
It,
then,
the only thing that would have caused that would be the tariffs increasing commodities so much that I'm not going to make a profit if I take it. So
yeah,
if I tell them I bid this to you half a year ago,
yeah,
I'm going to need to come in at this price. And there's mainly a time when they would say, no, I'm not going to pay you more. Then I said, well, see ya.
mm. Do you think they're more understanding right now with those scenarios because of the turmoil that's going on, that everybody understands that bids now are a little bit more fluid because of the tariffs and how the change in tariff can affect the pricing?
I
Right.
think the GCs are aware of everything like we've just been talking about, and they have to push the owners as well. Like, how are how are we doing on building ABC?
Yeah.
And s- and I'm sure they warn them that costs are going to increase because of these tariffs. So they're probably telling the owner, pull that trigger, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, situation, I know my mom's church is expanding and they came out 2 years ago to do like an estimate and it was like 7 million. And then they came back out and they had to redo the whole estimate on the project because all the tariffs started going through to try to figure out exactly now where they're going to be at, where they're going to fall. And it wasn't going to be a small increase across the board. It was going to be a good amount of money because, as you said, tariffs, not only tariffs trickle down, I mean, because you might be able to get product that was non-tariffed and you're good, or find made in America products that aren't getting hit, but also the delays that then add on to your labor and delays on the whole project overboard. That's going to cost you money in the end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
seems like a going theme. Are your GCs great, easy to communicate? I know you mentioned one before, and they're very understanding about the situation here.
It really depends. I've got maybe 5 GCs that I work with all most of the time. Those guys will talk to me.
Got it.
The other GCs that I hardly ever bid to or get awarded jobs from out of state or whatever, uh, they're stingy with their information.
Got it. So overall, good relation. It seems like the relationships you had and ongoing are staying the same, as you had not only with GCs but distributors and everybody
Yeah.
else in the area. It seems like talking with Travis last week, relationships were huge right now. That the
Oh,
relationship that everybody's having, because everybody sort of seems to be in the same boat. Really, nobody knows what's happening, what's changing, what's going on. There's a lot of variables that are affecting everybody. That communication and trust within your different partners and projects and in the channel buying partners is going to be huge, not only for today, but going forwards as well.
yeah, 100%. Like I said, those few GCs that I work with all the time, I can really trust what they're going to tell me. They're not blowing smoke, you know.
Mhm.
And then also the communications, they're not getting as many jobs either, right? And so uh, they are going to want to hire their electrical contractor that they can trust. That's
Yeah,
not going to screw them. That maybe through the job they say, "Hey, man, this has happened here and here. Can you help me here or here?"
yeah.
And that's where you may get a job that you may not be their lowest EC, but
But they
they're
trust
gonna
you.
they trust me like I trust them, and so let's just give it to KDC Electric.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people I'm talking to. Trust, understanding, partnership. It's just you can't be out there by yourself. You have to have everybody on board that can understand the situation and be able to adjust accordingly as things go forwards.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Yeah,
it's
Barney,
bringing
I know you mentioned that things are slowing, but how much have they slowed in your area? Slowed in your area?
a lot. I
yeah,
mean, like I'm bidding everything
popping up.
that's that I feel like we could do. Whereas before, I would I'd all I'd get 1 out of 10 bids,
Yeah,
and I'd be picky of what I even bid.
yeah. I
That's
remember you mentioned during your last conversation.
Yeah, that's why you got 30, 40 guys bidding the job, because all of us are bidding everything that there is.
Now, do you think this is a slowdown because, they're just sort of wrapping up and people aren't looking at doing any major projects now? Or do you think it can be contributed to
I
tariffs and
100% think it's the tariffs, because the owners, not costing them to put all their jobs out to bid,
yeah,
but they're not pulling the trigger. They're not awarding it to the GCs. That's why electrical contractors are
so
slow.
the-
And that's why guys are out in the field looking for jobs.
yeah, because I mean, for an owner, if they don't pull the trigger, they just pay the property tax and they don't have to do anything else. But if they pull the trigger at the wrong time and pick up the project, then they can end up going into a hole on the build. And then, if they're going to rent or whatever it may be, they're starting off from behind already just for all the costs. Because it's, as we said before, it's not just you electrical guys. I mean, you're talking glass, you're talking steel,
Right.
and concrete, HVAC, everything is going to have a portion. So it could be that electrical products at this time isn't seeing a big increase in pricing across the board, but it could be, the steel that we've heard about before that they need to build a building is going up immensely, and that's why they're holding off. So it could be different aspects of the project that are delaying for other people because it's just not working out.
While the owners are scared to award jobs, and it affects GCs,
Yep.
every other sub, every employee,
So
and
this might
every
be something
electrician.
we're going to be seeing for a little bit right now because we haven't really gotten any clear pictures going forward. So projects that are currently going on, I know we have a lot of mixed use projects in Connecticut that started up, and now they build those little villages now with stores on the bottom, apartments on
Sure.
top, stuff
Yeah.
all over Connecticut. But a lot of those are finishing up, and honestly, I haven't seen a lot of new construction popping up. And it's funny because when we talked a year ago, that there was tons of those being built everywhere. I mean, down the street there was like a 2,000 unit apartment complex and in townhouses and everything. And
Yeah.
now you drive around and you see these projects finishing up. You're not necessarily seeing new construction of that scale. I'm seeing new homes, single family homes,
Yeah.
but I'm not seeing these large residential or commercial jobs popping up. And now that you mention it, it makes me sort of actually see that clearly now.
A lot of my guys went to these mixed use big contractors, electrical contractors. It was booming, like you were just saying, everywhere. They couldn't find enough electricians. And then now they're all done, and I don't see any new ones coming up. A lot of the guys that left me who went to those knocking on the door. So anyway,
Well,
that's
let me ask you this before we let you go today. Something I talked about with Travis. There's two items here when it comes to materials. One being made in America. That's a big thing nowadays. So many companies are, you know, putting that all across anything that they have. They meet compliance. Do you see yourself looking at more made in America products moving forwards that might be a little bit more expensive, but they're quicker and easier to get sometimes?
the availability would be the only reason for me to do that,
Okay.
because the bottom line is the cost.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get the profit. So
Gotcha. So
right now, I now made in America.
it doesn't bring
I
any.
don't really. I go on to Net Pressure and I do thousands of my updates,
Yeah.
and that's where that
You go from there. You go off that price unless there's going to be an availability issue or delays. Then
yeah
you looking at maybe some of those, but you'll stick with what you know and what's been working for you as long as the prices aren't going
yeah
overboard.
yeah the delays, the availability. That's the only thing I would switch for.
Gotcha. Now, my next question is for me. I think I mentioned this before. I work primarily marketing. I see a lot of manufacturers now that are also pushing out their labor savings products. So this product's labor savings here, and this product is labor savings there. we made this product with labor savings in mind. And I know they've done it in the past, but it seems like there's a flood of these labor savings products coming onto the market, and that's really what they're trying to push. Is that something that you keep an eye out for, or pulls you to these particular products, knowing that if it decreases 10% on the install, that it might be a little bit more expensive, but because you can save some time on install, overall, you're going to be saving money on a project?
A smart contractor, electrical contractor, is going to always see all the new materials coming in, because it is, I don't care if it's close to the same price, but the labor is everything. So if you can save labor, that's worth more than saving $5.
All Well, that's all I got for you today, Barney. Sal, you got anything?
No, hey, Barney, it's always good talking with you. We always appreciate your time. Like you said, you're an expert in the area. You've been doing it for many, many years, and we always appreciate the information that you give us.
Yeah, Barney.
Thanks, Sal.
Appreciate you again. I'm glad we were able to connect. You always give it to us straight, no fluff or anything. We get the information here, and it's great to hear coming directly from somebody with boots on the ground. And, hopefully it gets out there, helps our listeners, gives a perspective to others in the industry to understand sort of what's going on right now. So,
Chris, always good talking to you, man.
all right, buddy. Well, you take care. Best of luck with everything moving forwards, and
All right.
catch up again in the future.
All right. Take care.
Take care, guys.